a century, unions in Guyana have stood at the crossroads of labor, politics, and power. From the pioneering efforts of Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow to the modern-day struggles of unions navigating a rapidly changing economy, the story of unionism in Guyana is deeply woven into the fabric of our nation's history. But today, that legacy faces a new set of challenges: political interference, weakened bargaining power, economic uncertainty, and resistance from both public and private sectors. Today on Sources, we speak with the General Secretary of the Guyana Trade Union Congress, Mr. Lincoln Lewis, about the evolution of collective action, the battles still being fought in the boardrooms and on the picket lines, and about the question that still looms large today: where do unions go from here? Hello and welcome to Sources. I'm your host, Svetlana Marshall. Today, we'll be speaking about trade unionism in Guyana. And with me to discuss that very important topic is the General Secretary of the Guyana Trade Union Congress, Mr. Lincoln Lewis. Mr. Lewis, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, and I'm grateful.
Mr. Lewis, to get right into it, do you believe that trade unions in Guyana today have been able to live up to the legacy of the father of trade unionism in Guyana, Mr. Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow?
Yes. I believe strongly that the trade union movement in Guyana, the Caribbean, and throughout the world has been able to do the things that trade union was established to do, even in Guyana when it started in 1905. Let me say to you that life has changed through circumstances. When Critchlow started in 1905, when he called the first strike at the waterfront in Guyana, challenging the merchant class and the crown, there were no laws to protect workers at that time. What has happened is that from then to now, there has been a number of legislations on the book. You have had the 8-hour work day, the 40-hour work week, holiday with pay. There was a period when in the in the health services, or the public service that we call it today, women, when they get pregnant, they had to leave the job. You had legislation to cover that. You have had legislation to cover what we call forced labor. We have had legislation for occupation safety and health. There are been a number of legislations that were put in place even after Critchlow has left the movement. But he's set the foundation for it. Let me tell you that the problem that we have, that when Critchlow started, he was fighting the crown. There were no laws. He was fighting colonialism. Today, the people who we are fighting are the children of indentured servants and descendants of slaves. It was their parents who fought alongside Critchlow for the realization of trade unionism in this country. It was their parents who worked with Critchlow who started the march in 1926 for one man, one vote in this country. Right? That we are able now to say to people that under the Constitution we are expected or we are supposed to have one man, one vote, free from fear, free of fear. It is the people who we are dealing with today who happen to be the individuals that created this atmosphere to deny workers and citizens what is justly theirs based on what are the rights and because they use the people's power to deny people, citizens, their rights consistent with the law. So what I want to tell you, that the trade union continue to struggle just the same way as Critchlow was struggling, others were struggling. But in that case of Critchlow, it was the colonials. Now it's the same people who are children and grandchildren of those who struggled in the early 1900s, who are oppressing us here, who are not prepared if you express another opinion, regardless of what political area people are, or in what group, so long you express another opinion beside theirs, they come after citizens, they come after leaders.
And what has been the unions? I know that you're hinting at the politicians, the powers that be, and I'm going to get to that. But what has the union done to resist that in recent times?
The trade union has been resisting over the years imposition by the government, imposition as it relates to wages and salaries in the public sector. In fact, the public sector that gets is directive from the government has over the years denied trade unions the right to collective bargaining in the public sector. They are supposed to be the model employer. And because they have done so, the employers in the private sector has joined the band also. It is not that trade unions are not prepared to fight, but they have made it so difficult that the individuals who are members of trade union or the employees, they are receiving what we call wages that are not decent. So they live from one paycheck to the other. So it is difficult when you leave to go there when you call them out to struggle in the streets. They decide that you're not going to pay them. And the employer, the private sector employers, are quick to dismiss people when they get out there. And the government, the Ministry of Labor, that has the responsibility to make sure that they uphold the law, see that the law is being respected. They join with the employer. They join with the private sector. There are some unions, who may have a problem in this country. And they may have a strike or something like that. And the Ministry of Labor decides that they're not going to talk with the union. I've come out from the bauxite industry where we have had serious differences between management and I've understood over the years that when there's a strike, regardless, the Ministry of Labor don't say who right or who wrong. They call you to conciliate, to make sure that normalcy prevails. In this situation, it don't happen.
Mr. Lewis, a part of the problem seems to be the politicization of the unions in Guyana. And since the early 1960s, the unions in Guyana have been highly politicized and divided. We have, for example, GAHU, which is largely supported by their union that cover sugar workers in the country, and you know, it's no secret that they're aligned with the People's Progressive Party, but it's also no secret that the Guyana Trade Union Congress, for which you're the general secretary, is aligned with the opposition. At least that's the perception that has existed for decades. The unions are divided, and do you think that this posture, aligning yourselves, the various political party, GTUC for the opposition, GAHU for the government, or the PPP, do you think you're really putting workers first? And do you think that that's part of the problem, resulting in this ability to really bargain on behalf of workers?
Can I make up the point? Let me make this point to you. One man, one vote. Adult, universal adult suffrage. It is the trade union. 8-hour workday is the trade union. 40-hour workday is the trade union. All these matters that you're talking about, universal health care in this country and universal education, it is the trade union who fought for those over the years. Okay? These are issues that people will consider to be political. Let me tell you what. The Trade Union Congress do not negotiate for increased wages for anybody. The Trade Union Congress looks at legislation and where there's transgression of individual rights and the question of violation of laws.
Yeah, but you're an umbrella body
Right?
for unions
Yes,
that.
that's what I'm saying.
Yes, I understand that fully, Mr.
Let me
Lewis.
go on to tell you. GAU may be the industrial arm. The constitution of the PPP, you know, makes provision for a seat for GAU on it, you know, the central executive. In none of the political parties here, opposition, there's no seat for the TUC. Okay? And the TUC has consistently, even my predecessor, criticized even all governments that exist, right? We have done so and we shall continue to do it, right? There may be a perception that we support the opposition. We don't support opposition. We support progressive legislation and position. That's our position. And any group that intends at any time to do anything to discriminate in favor of one group against the other, we are going to talk against it. Let me point out to you, during the period of the lifetime of the PNC, when they were in government, okay, the Guyana Agriculture Workers Union was given as an individual union. The TUC did more for the Guyana Agriculture Union than they have done for the Guyana Public Service Union. The TUC would have gone out there and argued with this government, with the then government, for motor vehicles, for motorcycles, and a host of other things. It has never done so for the other unions in the.
So you're saying unions in Guyana are not divided
The
along
question
political
that
lines?
I'm saying to you that individuals may have carried their political baggage, right? But the trade union per se, we all subscribe to the ILO conventions, right? Freedom of association, right to collective bargaining. We all adumbrate the same thing. But when it comes to issues where where we collectively stand up to fight a government for transgressing of individual rights and violating of laws, politics come into that. In the case of the TUC, at least I remember under the tenure of my predecessor and under my tenure, while they have said that many of the unions in the TUC may have been, some may have been affiliated to the PNC then. The Transport and General Workers Union, I remember the first march that I come to Georgetown to deal with. One of the first marches. It was the Transport and General Workers Union, who in this auditorium here, said to call on us to march against the government, right? But they were a strong stance supporter of the PNC. What they're saying, what the government was doing was wrong, and they led that march. And I remember well, the march ended at Border Cricket Ground, right? I'm saying to you that I've seen these type of things. I have seen the split that we currently have. You're maybe too young to know. In 1999, during the public service strike, there was 19 workers, 19 persons who the police, when the police opened fire at John Fernand's Wharf, that were shot. And we took a decision. We took a decision, the TUC, that we're going to have a 3-day shutdown. The GAU voted for it. You hear me? But by afternoon, the same union issued a statement disassociating themselves with the decision. Okay? So what I want you to understand, while there is politics in what you're doing, politics divide. And while that division permeates, it is not right for anyone to take a broad brush on the trade union.
I get you. And do you think the baggages that you say some trade unionists come with and the politics that sometimes get in the mix of trade unionism affect the ability to bargain on behalf of workers? And I've seen cases, and I'm asking this question because I've seen cases in which, for example, the government, we've recently had the case of the teachers union, the Guyana Teachers Union, and the protest that went on for several weeks. And the government saying, because, and I know you're going to tell me who has a member of parliament, but because the General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union, Ms. Coretta MacDonald, is a member of parliament or an opposition or opposition forces. Don't let me single out Ms. MacDonald alone, but opposition forces were fueling the protests. And so, you know, they were initially open to negotiating with the union. In a sense, they were saying that it was affecting the union's ability to negotiate effectively with the government. And I know you will tell me that who has a member of parliament in...
I'm not going to tell you that. What I'm going to tell you this is where...
So, but I just want to be clear, whether it's GTU, sorry, or GAHU, regardless of the trade union to which we speak, do you think that politics sometimes could weaken our ability to negotiate on behalf of workers?
No,
and to,
politics.
It's not the politics.
It's not the politics.
It's the person, the personality.
It is a question where actors do not understand their roles.
Okay.
Right? They don't understand their roles. And that's the problem. You know? What Coretta MacDonald or C. Paul Narine has that freedom to be associated.
Yes, and the court has so...
Yeah, you can't stop people from doing it. And we must respect that. But what the government wants to do, the employer and the government, they want to set the rules outside of what is prescribed in the Constitution and the laws of this country.
And that leads me to my another question. Do you think that the government of the day respects the process of collective bargaining? And if you're saying no, please do explain.
I do not believe that they believe in that. I tell you something. Earlier I had to make the point that the people who are dealing with are children and grandchildren of those who fought who fought the colonials. Many of these people, if they are going to Parliament building there, you see that statue inside there, they will not know that that statue represents Critchlow, you know. So tell you how far they are. There are questions that have been asked of me by members of parliament. I just really ask myself where they live in. We have a deficit of information and knowledge in the country. And because of that, we are in this state of affair. Very much so. The men and women who are in the governments, who run government in this country, believe that they should dictate to people. They don't believe that Article 13 of the Constitution, which speaks to an inclusionary democracy, gives anybody the right to speak or to be involved in decisions that impact their well-being. That's the problem that we have. We have a constitution, I believe many of them don't read it. And apart from that, we are driven here, we have serious problems. We have problems where we want to tell people that there's not a race problem. It exists. It exists. And apart from that, if Thomas needs a duty-free or a house lot in a specific area, he can only get that house lot or get that duty-free if he going to join the party in government or support the party in government. I'm saying these things are wrong. It is not about which party I represent. It is about what I'm entitled to. And these are things that we need to understand, that the people who end up in government don't know what ought to be done. Can you ever imagine? Look how this society runs. You, Svetlana Marshall, and Lincoln Lewis, we will share different opinions, strong views. You share a strong view about something else, not a view about something else. But we can work, we can respect each other and work together. Say no. Let me look at the parliament. Every motion that the opposition goes with, the speaker from the outset say he's not accepting it. What parliament we run in? But the same people can talk, let's work with unity. What unity mean? I accept everything that you say. It tells you that we are in a crisis where people do not understand roles. And more so, we are in what we call a dictatorship. That's what is existing. And the faster we come to realize that that is where we are, that's the effect we are getting. We got to look at the cause and we got to deal with it.
Ms. Lewis, you spoke about government and government not respecting the process of collective bargaining in the country. Do you think the actions of the government, in a sense, fuel the actions of the private sector? I noted earlier you spoke about some of the challenges faced when approaching companies and having them respect, the issue of collective bargaining. Tell me elaborate a bit from the private sector standpoint. What are some of the issues you face? Unions, when I say you, I'm referencing to unions. Unions confront when trying to negotiate on behalf of the working class, negotiate with the private sector, private companies.
Let me tell you what. You have on the books of this country, the minimum wage in the private sector is something around $60,000 a month. The private sector people, when they pay that, and you go to them, when unions argue with them to say, hey, you are, based on the economic performance of your company and the economic environment that we are operating in, this you can pay $180,000. Their position is that they're paying 60. And you go to the Ministry of Labor, they end up at the Ministry of Labor at conciliation. You know what the Ministry of Labor said? They have satisfied the law. The law says 60. Who sets that? The government set it. The government set it. But let me take you back to understand the wider implication why we are in it. We started in the 60s, 70s with talking about the cooperative movement. We said the cooperative movement would have made the small man a real man economically. At around 1986, we started to dumb down the cooperative movement. And you know what we started to say? And the government did it. Said the private sector is the engine of growth. We started to talk against it. Because private sector don't create jobs. Private sector, which I don't disagree with them, is to make money, make profit.
So you don't believe they create jobs?
No, I don't believe it. No man come to create job. There's a government job. Even the last one was Mr. Granger, who said who made the point that they were not, the government is not finding work for people. That's the government job. The government got to put the nation to work. Their prime objective must be that, right? What you call it, the private sector is to work within the confines of the law to make their money, and in so doing, they will create some opportunities for people to be employed. Okay? We break up the NIS. They break up the NIS, GNS, right? We break it up. That was giving people a second chance and opportunities to come out. We started, as I said, throw co-op aside, private sector become the engine of growth. And many trade unions buy into it, trade union leaders bought into that notion. The notion, right, was that, look, we cut employment levels, take away pension plan, okay, take away health insurance. For instance, the bauxite workers, they had pension plan, they had health scheme. Right? When they close bauxite, we talk to the government about, we put a paper in front of them to talk about converting the scheme into what we call, into a fund, a trust, that you can get people paying into it. And these people will get pension, those workers. You know what they did? They engineer the process to get the fund broken up. It was $2.5 billion at the time, the largest sum of money that were owned by workers in this country. They break it up, that 20 people, many of them, who are still alive, cannot get a pension. Okay? I'm saying that it is because some trade union leaders were afraid to stand up to to governments that caused this to happen. So where we are now, you are building, we come a full circle. You're building hotel. Now hotel, you're building a hospital. Sheriff building a hospital. Sheriff get clinic. Sheriff get security service, right? Everything is privatized here. When all the hospitals here, except the public hospitals, you have to pay. And at public hospital, when you go in here, at many times you can't find the pharmaceutical that you need, the drug that you need is not there. You want the x-ray machine break down, you have to go outside and get it. Ultrasound, the same thing. What has happened is that there's an orchestrated program to run everything down there while there's building, they don't get anything inside. And what will happen is that we will have to go to those hospitals with these few dollars the workers have, right? They will have to go there and spend them, okay? That's what we have here now is no different to what's happening in the United States now. They don't care. And the people who are responsible for this are politicians.
Politicians. But Mr. Lewis, going back to the question, have the unions been able to say, represent workers in the private sector? I know for some of the major companies, for example, the bauxite company in Linden, some of those workers are unionized. But for the newer companies that are coming to Guyana, and we will get to oil and gas in a bit, but generally speaking, aside from oil and gas, have the unions been able to sit with these companies and say,
no. There have been a decline in the union activities. You see, for you to engage, it has to be an agreement on both sides, both parties, that there's a necessity. And the Ministry of Labor has a responsibility to facilitate it. I heard you just now, you said you're going to come to oil and gas. I'm waiting till you come. I can tell you what happened.
we'll get to that. But you spoke about a decline, and you've spoken about a number of challenges the unions are facing. What is being done to attract the workers, the younger generation, to say, hey, I want to be represented by a union. Let's push for this. I could be wrong, but I don't see a lot of young people. I don't see a lot of young people gravitating towards the union. You've blamed the government largely, but do you think that the unions should be faulted as well?
Responsibility must be taken by organization for their role. You're asking me as a trade unionist to tell you from what perspective, from a trade union perspective, how I see it.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you that.
Okay.
Okay? Let me tell you something. I know of a situation where unions embark on bargaining, talk to workers, get them to sign forms, and within days they come back to me. The management is aware that they have signed these forms. Call them, threaten them, and they come back to say they don't want to be a part of it anymore.
So you're saying young people are afraid, or people are afraid?
People are afraid. I have seen it. It's not what somebody bring to me. I've been involved. I've been involved. I have seen it. And it's one particular group of people doing it.
Now let's go to oil and gas and other evolving sectors in the country. How are you navigating the new industries such as the oil and gas industry? How are unions dealing with that? Have they been able to penetrate that sector?
Oil and gas, I do not believe that Exxon itself directly and the oil companies them get 2,000 workers. They have approached, the approach to delivering the services that the oil company need is that they have contracted out a number of activities to contractors. It starts from transportation on land, on sea, and so forth. In 2018, the Guyana Bauxite and General Workers Union organized a fleet of drivers in the employed by by one employer in Georgetown. More than 200 people. They went to the ministry, to the Trade Union Recognition Board, and they asked that company to submit the records. And they submitted the records. And based on the submission that they have made, the union had in excess of 80% of the workers as members of the union. They were granted recognition. When they came to the table to negotiate, they were back on flow. They started bringing lawyers and trying to make all technicalities, the company. The moment the government changed and the Trade Union Recognition Board composition changed, the union received a letter. They didn't call the union, you know. They said the board has de-recognized the union. The board has de-recognized it. When they were asked, show me the reason, you know what the secretary of the board write to say? He write the union and say that it was unanimous that the union be recognized. But there are other unions that are trying to get in, and none of them has got one bargaining unit. You see, I'll tell you what. Here again, the politics. The Bauxite Union, the GB and GW is not seen as a friendly union to the government. Neither of the two governments, Granger government or this one. I'm telling you, the union has not been given the requisite support to get things going. You know, I have to go back to some things. There's a famous story in this country. There was a man named Roy Drakes, who was former judge Robert Drakes' father, was president for the branch at Linden during Denver time. And you had a man named Louis Mowbray, was the personnel director. And there was a problem, and the union was talking to them. And he said, when the guy said we, Mowbray asked him, who you talking about? He said, you're going to see them just now. He said, look out there, and the people walking up the Washapan Road. The Ministry of Labor invited them to meet him. And Mowbray refused to come. One day, 2 days, and the third day, the strike bite, and he decided to turn up. And when he turned up at the meeting, you had a minister by the name of Winslow Carrington, a minister of labor. And when Mowbray opened the door, he asked him, who are you? He said, I am Louis Mowbray, personnel director. He said, I sent to call you and you didn't come. He said, get out of my meeting, right? I'm going to tell you, that's how we treated with him, right? That was a minister. These here, first thing they tell you that the union wrong, the workers wrong. The employer never right. The employer never wrong. It's the workers wrong. That's the problem we have. What I'm saying to you, we can only have strong trade unions if we have strong government that is prepared to stand up and make sure that the laws and principles are respected. You know, the trade union in United States was on the rise. You know why it was on the rise? You had a president in the White House who believes strongly in trade union and his values, right? He went on a picket line, the first president, he went on a picket line with the auto workers and all a picket, okay? These here will not do that. They will in opposition tell you that we're gonna deal with Exxon and we'll deal with the private sector. When they're in opposition and when they go into government, they do something else. We place is to influence the political, economic, and social climate in this society. That's our role.
Given the challenges, how do unions move forward?
We will have to, at this juncture, there are a number of things that we will have to do. We'll have to go back to the ground rules, and we'll have to look at our existing rules and to see what changes, not changes for change's sake, but to do other things. We believe right now that we have to go back to the cooperative movement. We have to go and fight there. We have seen what has happened. We have seen what has happened with the Public Service Credit Union, for example. The services that it is now delivering to members, right? Let me just tell you why I believe strongly in this thing. Let me give you an example. The late Bevan Curry, who I believe you may know, he used to come into this area, said twice a week. He always used to do some typing for him. Curry used to be working, doing projects, developing projects for people. And he was strong in the financial element of it. He prepared a project. And he went to give a guy. The guy went to the bank. For 7 straight weeks, they get it running around. Can't get it done. One of the banks in Georgetown. He came in here. He said, bring your wife. She was Indian. She has an East Indian name, and she's East Indian. And he took the same documents, changed that project, and he go down there. And next day they call me and tell you, she called me and tell you, I get the money. Right? I'm saying that this is the level of discrimination only I see them. This trade union represent active worker, potential worker, and past worker. Right? And we believe that if you get bad roads in Eccles, and we have 5 workers living there, it will affect them. And when you get blackout in this country, it will affect all the workers when you get blackout. And because of that, when we talk about those issues, people see it as partisan politics. But if these people don't get that money, if those things are affecting people when they go to work, they cannot give up their best. And these are the things that worry us.
What do you do?
What we're going to do, I'm going to tell you, it's time that they see the men who are weak, right? And the women are strong. They got to come out from the kitchen and they got to take the streets. I am prepared to go with them.
So you're taking the streets for?
I said, that's the only way you can get something. Change. This is what we're talking about now. The theme this year is change.
What about legislative changes? What are some of the legislative changes?
Can I make this point to you?
Go ahead.
Legislation in this country is very good.
Okay, great.
But it's dead at its heart unless it's activated by people. And that's the problem. These guys not going to respect it. You have had the court order last year with Sandel Kissoon, where he said that the checkoff must be honored. The checkoff between the GTU and the Ministry of Education must be honored. You know what? They decide that they will not respect the court order. Right? And you go further. Let me tell you how far they go. Every worker or any citizen that is not a friend of the government and they refuse to pay them and they take them to court, when the court gives an order, you know what they do? They appeal it. And they said we are prepared to go even to the CCJ. They are using the people money to fight the people. I don't believe the Attorney General understands his role. His role is not to fight the people. His role is to make sure that justice is dispensed in this country. He is not working for a political group. He's working for the people. We paying them. And the first and foremost, when we come to realize that, that's what we should be telling them.
Mr. Lewis, going back to the question, and I would want you to clearly articulate for those young persons who are, employed by whether government agencies or private sector, and you spoke about private sector now being called the engine of growth. In a sense, it is the engine of growth.
You see it that way. I don't see that.
Right? Well, yeah, that's the way I see it. But also, there's a role for government as well, an important role for both sections, private and public sector. But the issue is the workers. What would you say to them now that would cause them to want to be a part of the movement? What are the unions? And I don't ask you, I don't want to ask you, sorry, what the unions are going to do, but what you think the unions should do to have the movement, in a sense, be revitalized. Yes, we have the Labor Day March. Yes, we have some negotiations from time to time and agreements being reached. Sometimes the workers are clearly dissatisfied, although the unions say, yeah, we've achieved this, but some of the workers, they're not satisfied. What more could be done to strengthen the trade union movement in Guyana? That's what I want to hear. Clearly.
I get you. But let me, two issues you have in front of me. And let me deal with them in sequence. Growth in society is not only about dollars and cents. Growth is about respecting laws, right? Respecting laws, embracing international conventions, right? Grounded in a philosophy that embraces the core labor standards in the ILO. The ILO is the only institution where worker get a voice, government get a voice, and the employer has a voice. Okay? So this issue about private sector being the engine of growth, it don't exist because private sector break down the laws, do not want the laws. And if you are in any society that grows, laws are the things that guide those society, right? So when I'm talking about it, I'm talking within that confine. The other one, let me tell you something. Anytime you have a group where all the people are satisfied, then something wrong. There will never be development. For those young people out there, let me say to them, you have to be the change. You have to be the change because nobody can change it for you. You can sit from now till the cows come home as a young man or a young woman. There's no government where you have man and woman will respect your rights and the rule of law unless you come out to hold them accountable. Your first line for you where you can come out and make your own decision is to join the trade union. That's where they got to start. And they have to start to say that, okay, I want to improve my life. You know, as I talk here, I am not satisfied with a number of things that are happening in the trade union. But I can only say it so far, or I can go so far. I can't instruct the president of the CCW, to do something. I can't instruct the president of the General Workers Union. I can't instruct the General Secretary of the PTW. But they can instruct me what they want to do. So I have to be guarded when about some things that I say. I want to tell these people, it's time, you working somewhere, you want your rights to be respected, join a union. You have, and if the leaders of the union is not performing, then take over the union. As simple as that. Don't complain that, let me tell you what. Lincoln Lewis did not become a unionist because I set out to become a unionist. I work in Bauxite and I go to the union meeting and I make my points very clear. When I was nominated for Assistant General Secretary of the Union, I was not at the meeting. I knew the next days a man came to my workplace. He said, "You know Lincoln Lewis?" I said, "Yes." He said, I was supposed. He said, you were nominated last night for Assistant Secretary. And I won the Assistant Secretary position. And then I became the General Secretary. And you know, when I became the General Secretary, I was the youngest man in the team. But you know what had happened? Is that I had already read 90% of the files in the union. I used to leave, when I leave work in the afternoon, I wasn't being paid, I'd go and do it. Saturday morning, I go in the office and I read. So I frame myself with that. One of our problems now is that I believe that we need to run more seminars for workers, for them to understand their rights. And that's a responsibility of the unions. And the workers must call for it, right? They must call for it. They're afraid, you understand me? I am saying that it's they own the union. It's not the people who walk around with the briefcase own it. It is the only institution that you can come and tell your president, the general secretary, where to get off. You go to the political party and tell them so. They expel you next week. Think about it. I want to call on them, come take the unions. I feel they should come. And not only that, the women should come out and start taking. And let me tell you something. We have to understand something. I want to see the trade union in a way where women no longer come and they want to involve in cake sale and knitting. I don't want that. I may be wrong, but I'm saying it against the backdrop that times have changed. The International Trade Union Confederation General Secretary is a woman. The AFL-CIO, the strongest federation in the biggest federation in the United States, is a woman. Okay? I'm saying to you, let the women, I want the women come and take. I have more confidence, you know, I'll tell you something. In fact, you're asking me at a critical time when I'm discussing with people. I have a group that is working on two papers, one for youth and one for women. Right? Because I believe those two constituents are very important. And my thought of it is that if I give you this, that you don't have to be necessary to be in the youth movement you don't have to be working. You don't have to be a member of a union. I'm saying that if there are 8 people in the union who are the workplace can deal with the rights of the workplace, and there are 10 people outside of the union who are in the community, they can bring to bear their views that can make the union strong.
Ms. Lewis, we're sitting here, before we wrap up, we're sitting here in the compound of the Critchlow Labour College, and I know just recently it was affected severely by fire. Could you provide us with a brief update on the progress to rebuilding this very important building?
Look, let me tell you what. Critchlow Labour College was established, this building was erected in 1968. This building has seen a number of persons, prominent persons, pass through. Our intention is to rebuild Critchlow Labour College. We can't repair Critchlow Labour College. It has to be rebuilt. It has to be rebuilt against the backdrop that, look, 1960s, 57 years ago we're talking about. When it was built, was to look at where the society was at that time and where it was going. The society, the things that we want to do, that the trade union ought to be doing, the current structure has outlived that. Unfortunately, fire came. We will have to look at at the new building, at the new process where we go. It has to take on board. When it was built, it was chalk and blackboard. Now is AI. We have to build a college that take into consideration the
technological
society,
era
yes,
that we live
errors
in.
and so on, era that we are in, and so on. The government in itself, as the day when the fire caught here, the president called and he spoke with us, and he said he is willing to meet with us when we are ready to receive us to see what help they will give.
And
to
you
it.
submitted a
We
proposal
have
to the...
already submitted. We have already indicated by writing that we will be coming with our proposals for it. But that proposal, as I said, is not something where we just can say we're repairing it. We got to rebuild. In fact, I have a team of people who are looking, who are educators and planners, who are looking at what the needs are, right? And from that group, we will know well what are the things that are necessary for bringing to fruition a new college. Let me give you an example. There's a view that no longer we pay emphasis on sports. We had an Olympic bronze medalist, right? Since how many years? We had a few footballers. We had boxers who went out there, right? Commonwealth and so forth. And the trade union was involved in sports. We had at that time workers were involved in sports. Let me tell you what, it had what we used to call Guyman games, where the athletes of this country, the top athletes, will clash, either in Georgetown at Boulder or at Mackenzie Sports Club, right? We had those type of games. No longer people are paying emphasis in those things. So there's a school of thought in the trade union that we got to look for something where we get a play field, where we get maybe a semi stadium or something, where we can promote, because we can't just lock people in and kill their talents, right? So give you that example for you to understand where we are, where we want to go.
Mr. Lewis, thank you so much for sharing and sitting here with me today to discuss trade unionism in Guyana. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Sources. I've been your host, Svetlana Marshall.